Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ashley Rowe. The Erie County Sheriff is sounding the alarm over staffing issues that he says are driving his corrections officers to depression and anxiety. It's an issue the I-Team first told you about earlier this year, and tonight we're following up. In a one-on-one interview, Sheriff John Garcia tells me his office has already paid out more than 46,000 hours of overtime this year, and it's only May. Last year, his office paid 225,000 hours in overtime. And this appears to be part of a pattern. According to budget data, almost every year since 2013, the sheriff's office has blown past its budgeted overtime spend. The only year it did not overspend on overtime was 2014. But the sheriff's office says things were made more difficult in 2020 when 40 positions were cut, nearly half of which were in corrections. And they tell me they only regained 8 of those positions. This all comes at a time when the number of inmates at the Erie County Corrections facilities is at an all-time low. So why are there such serious staffing issues? The new sheriff says it boils down to funding, and he has tried to accommodate new programs and state mandates, but his office says he's set up to fail. It's an issue plaguing law enforcement agencies across the country.
The most crucial need for us is staffing.
Erie County Sheriff John Garcia says staffing issues have forced his office to pay big money for overtime. Last year, Garcia estimates the sheriff's office paid out more than 225,000 hours in overtime, amounting to $9.5 million. This year, he expects they'll surpass 300,000 hours. That's $10 million in overtime pay.
Last week, the midnight shift, out of 5 days, 4 days they were forced to work 16-hour days. Now that gives you enough time to drive home, sleep, eat, shower, maybe spend a couple minutes with your family and drive back. That's not healthy.
Garcia says he's short 128 officers to fulfill state requirements at the Erie County Holding Center and Alden Correctional. As a result, they rely on overtime. When was the last time the Erie County Sheriff's Office was in compliance with the Department of Corrections for staffing?
Well, that's a very good question. So 128 officers short, it has to be a couple decades, I'm sure. A couple decades since the Erie County Sheriff's Office was in compliance, staffing-wise, with the Department of Corrections. Wow. So this summer, Garcia will be asking the Erie County Legislature for money to beef up his workforce.
There's something we have to bring up. We have to bring them over, have that conversation.
Legislator Howard Johnson is the chair of the county's Public Safety Committee. When I told him how much money is being paid in overtime.
That is huge. That is huge. But, you know, we understand the nature of the beast over there.
This isn't the first time legislators have weighed staffing issues in the sheriff's office. According to budget data provided to 7 News, the legislature has added at least 95 positions since 2012. However, the sheriff's office says 40 positions were cut in 2020, and only a fraction of those were recovered.
We have to take a look at their budgets, see where they're at, see where there maybe be shortages in their spending, see where we could, you know, plug some gaps in at.
Garcia says without funding, the demands on his office are set up to fail, impacting both inmates and the men and women in uniform.
But we have to find a middle ground, Ashley. We can't continue to burn out our greatest resource, which is our men and women in corrections, and continue down this road. I pressed the sheriff on how many positions he is looking to create. He wouldn't give me a number. However, documents obtained by the I-Team say the sheriff's office would need 53 new positions to properly staff the holding center and Alden Correctional Facility.